Good afternoon and welcome to today's live chat. I'm Rebecca Fuhr. If your question does not make it onto today's live chat, we will send it over to the next month's live chat. We just have so many questions this month, so rest assured we will get to your question. Also, if you miss any portion of today's live chat or you just want to go back and rewatch any part, I always post the recording on the front page of DocNet under Executive Director Live Chats. If you've been a regular viewer, you know that we've made some changes in the times of these live chats. We have 1 month we're doing it at 11, and then next month we're at 3 o'clock. So thank you for that viewer suggestion. This afternoon, we have a full team today. So instead of listening to me, we'll jump right over to our Executive Director, Andre Staple. Good afternoon.
Hey, good afternoon, Rebecca, and good afternoon, everyone in the DLC family. I'm going to keep my comments brief because we have so many questions to get to. So I'm just going to kind of leave it there and we'll jump right in.
All right, you got it. You got it. The first question, concerning DOC lingo, has there been an official change to how we refer to our population? Inmates, offenders, residents, incarcerated persons, or does it matter? Several years ago, the department sent a survey out to the population to get their thoughts. Was anything done with those results?
Yeah, so this question is a good question. I was intimately involved with that survey as part of GRACE when we sent that out. And we had huge aspirations of, once we got the survey back, getting the results, we were going to make some changes. But the one thing I was questioning why the changes wasn't made prior to me getting here. One thing I've learned is that this topic is much bigger than just the DOC. There's a lot of politics behind this. So we are trying to focus on person first language, but making official changes in our statutes, in our policies and things like that is more complicated than I initially thought it was going to be. So that is something we're still working on, but the progress is slow because there's people external to the department that's involved in this. So.
Thank you. On these live chats, I often talk about anonymity. This question directly relates to that. Many times while watching these live chats, I've noticed the executive staff asking staff to contact them personally via email. Is this so that staff can be identified rather than to remain anonymous?
No, this question kind of insinuates that we're doing some trickery. There's no trickery to it at all. So some of the questions we get asked are very specific to an individual situation or an individual topic that only pertains to that person that asked that question. And if we don't know the full context of that question, it's hard for us to give a generalized answer to. So that's why we say, hey, can you, email us to let us know so we can get more specific answers to your question. If you want to be anonymous, you can be anonymous. Most of you all know I give out my phone number. I give out my email. I encourage people to slide notes under my door. However you want to get the question to us. It's not, for me, it's not always about who asked the question or who said this. Is about what's being said that we need to address. But sometimes for those questions that are unique to an individual or an individual's situation, we kind of have to get more information. And it's up to you whether you want to submit that follow-up information or not. But no, it's no trickery trying to find out because we really don't care who asked the questions.
Correct. Let's jump over to our Director of Business Innovations, Mr. Ed Cayley. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Apologies if I sound rough. I'm currently recovering from COVID, so. Oh,
gosh, I hope you're well. Let's jump into your questions. How does the CDOC justify the cost of going to UKG with the additional staff required to manage the system?
Thank you for that question, Rebecca. So updates to major systems are always going to be a significant expense for any agency, and that's both fiscally and in terms of man hours. All decisions for such efforts and changes are made through a risk management lens with an eye to the future needs of the agency. As our legacy systems have aged, they've exceeded life expectancy. And we're at a critical point where we have to find replacements for these systems. At some point, we will truly lose these systems, and it can't be the case that that's when we try to replace them. We've got to replace them before we lose them.
Getting ahead of the curve, correct. The next question, with using UKG for payroll, will supervisors and all other employees receive detailed training other than office hours? Many employees have expressed they did not receive proper training at the beginning of the year.
So we've offered and continue to offer many training opportunities. We've done in-person sessions, we've gone to specific sites, we've done them at headquarters, we've done virtual, we've provided training videos and training scripts. We have the office hours that have been mentioned. We're targeting training sites now that are asking for us to come in and help them, give them a more robust and in-person training. If you work in an area where you know that the supervisors and the staff in your area really need some extra training, please reach out to the project team or myself, and we'll facilitate and make those things happen.
Thank you. Why are staff members that need information to do their job being cut off from the computer resources needed to find info to answer? For example, grievances. It appears that the computer network setup has failed. My position requires information from incident reports and knowing who the author of the cron is. This information is no longer available. Why?
So this question is really important to me because this is kind of critical to what I think the biggest thing the innovations group is trying to offer to the department is, and that's putting more information in your hands, not less. So no staff should be losing access to critical job necessary information. If you have lost access to necessary information, please reach out to myself or the decorum team. Such issues are almost always solved through security updates and don't require any time or programming to restore the access. In fact, usually it's a training issue, and if you reach out to the team, we can quickly walk you through it and get you to the screens you need to find the information that you're looking for. But believe me, we're not trying to make information less accessible. We're trying to make it more accessible.
Thank you. It's extremely time-consuming to have to review and approve daily activity logs, enter into DCIS, and confirm in UKG to finalize. According to payroll, we were supposed to discontinue using DCIS several months ago. Why have we still have to enter into both programs, and when will we be able to solely use UKG?
So we've discussed this before, but we're talking about the replacement of very complex systems, and the information in those systems has to be right. We will take every precaution to make sure the switchover is successful. If that means going longer with dual entry, that's what we're going to have to do. We have just closed out our first month at one site without dual entry. We'll be reviewing the results from that site here in the next week or so to see how that worked out for us, and then we'll make future decisions on next sites and shutting down double entries. But as we work through these things, we will keep you informed.
When is Securus going to be held accountable for having the canteen system 100% functional? This has been an issue since day one. The waste of CDOC staff resources on something that should have happened is inexcusable.
So this is a loaded question. But what I will say is IV ordering has returned or resumed across the department. We're doing it at all facilities in the state again as of last week. So far results are positive. We believe that we have addressed those issues between the two systems communicating. As for accountability, contract requirements determine accountability measures and what's available to us. We've coordinated with the AG's office every step of the way to ensure that we're enforcing the contract appropriately and holding vendors appropriately accountable for their obligations. But it's not as simple as withholding funds or fining them, and contract language is very complex.
Thank you. Don't go anywhere. We might have some more questions for you at the end, but let's jump over to the Director of Prison Operations, Melissa Smith. Good afternoon, Director.
Good afternoon.
Why is the responsibility of reporting a bullying supervisor just put back on the reporting person to work out? If it is being reported, why would you send the person into the hostile environment to tell their supervisors they are treating them unfairly?
Sorry, I did want to come off mute. So that is not the intent of the policy nor the process. This is a very, very specific situation though, so I greatly encourage the staff member to reach out and talk directly with your appointing authority. If you're uncomfortable doing that, we welcome that you reach out to the two deputies, either Steve Owens, Mark Fairbairn, Human Resources, or the Office of the Inspector General, so that we can support and really try to address that concern effectively.
Thank you. After working within DOC, I have some supervision. Take advantage of the fact that they can write up anything for their subordinates for just about anything if they do not like someone. Can there be a review board to see if this is legit? I have seen staff either leave their position or go from the department because they are not able to defend themselves in a review.
So by policy, a corrective action or disciplinary action must be handled by the appointing authority or their delegee. Both processes where the employee can either file a grievance and or appeal the decision. If an employee is issued a confirming memorandum, they can meet with the next level supervisor or the appointing authority and ask that it be reviewed. Again, if you have issues, concerns, or there is something very specific that you would like to discuss, we welcome you reach out to us directly so we can try to support.
If the state gives out uniforms, what's the uniform stipend for?
So this is a great conversation. The uniform stipends are provided to you guys to buy additional items that might be necessary to do your job in any role within the department. One of those could be examples of boots, belts, or equipment holders, but it's to help support the additional needs you might have beyond a uniform.
How would I go about volunteering to work a shift at a different facility that's in desperately need of help with?
So I would greatly encourage you to reach out to that appointing authority at that facility directly to see if you can work through that process. But I also encourage that you make your supervisor aware of any posts or areas that you're offering to work at another facility. And then just please be aware that we are doing our best to mitigate overtime as much as possible. So there might not be as many posts as you're aware of. And then we are following our side agreement and our partnership agreement process as well.
What are your thoughts on staff involuntarily doing 2 16-hour shifts back to back? Do you approve of this practice when not in an emergency?
And again, this sounds very much like a very specific position or situation that I would greatly encourage you to reach out to us to discuss. But overall, our shifts are offered or our overtime and picking up additional shifts and having to work additional shifts are directly in line with the partnership agreement. And without having further knowledge or being able to have a conversation with this individual, I wouldn't be able to completely respond to that other than we are in alignment with the partnership agreements and ask you reach out to us.
Thanks. Let's talk about training for a few minutes. Department instructors are being asked to provide more and more training hours while taking on more liability, especially use of force instructors, with the expectation that they complete their regular job duties in the same with their peers. With fewer volunteers willing to become instructors and no foreseeable benefits, active instructors are being fatigued. Promotional benefits for an instructor are minor, as those opportunities are few and far between. What's the department doing or planning to compensate, acknowledge, and incentivize new or veteran instructors?
I first want to start with, we appreciate all of the support that we get from all of our instructors statewide. We know the value and importance and the role that you play on mentoring and modeling all of our staff. And so I would first say that the incentive is to really help and support our team members and to really build that supportive team. And the impact that you have being an instructor is really part of that, building a team and encouraging continual teamwork. I have to say, though, that there's many staff that become instructors to develop their skills in a profession, and that most of our instructors have a passion for it, and they truly believe in that instruction piece, and that is the motivation. And it can require extra efforts. but so can a number of other jobs within the departments, like being on our special teams. And all of those people grow from those opportunities or have truly invested in the department for that. And I know that from talking to many of our instructors and our individuals that support, taking on those additional duties is a great way for them to demonstrate that support for the department, and then also to grow and expand as a professional and a personal life. So I just want to say thank you to all of those individuals that really do take on that extra load and that heavy load, and encourage you all to really take the approach of doing our best to mentor our team members.
Thank you. We'll come back to training. I know we have a couple of other questions on training, but let's talk about staffing levels. Now that staffing levels have returned or even surpassed pre-COVID levels, when will case managers, teachers, etc., stop being posted outside of their normal working hours and positions, which still is a violation of the partnership agreement?
So again, these questions are very unique to a specific facility or situation, but there are many times within our facilities that we do have to utilize case manager and teachers to support the operations and the day-to-day needs of managing an environment such as a prison safely. We are in alignment with our partnership agreement, and if you have specific current concerns around a facility, please, again, we ask that you reach out to your appointing authority. If you don't feel like you're getting the answer that you need, please reach out to our office. Myself, Mark Fairbairn, and Steve Owens will do our best to kind of figure out what the situation is and look into any concerns.
This viewer states, I've been in food service for 3 years. I go out and cover shifts for custody and control on special teams. I have more to control, offender management skills, plus being able to feed the facility in a timely manner, all being able to plan for future meals to make the facility run. Why is it that food service always ends up on the short end of the deal and not being able to cash out overtime unless it's over 60 hours, not getting all of the same benefits as custody and control? We are able to go out and do the same training, but we have additional skill set, but don't reap the benefits.
This is a great question. Please know that there are some posts that are non-exempt, and they work a 14-day work period and can elect to have their compensatory payment paid out at the end of each month. That is within statute and with our AR 1450-14B. Many factors are taken into account when we talk about having our overtime paid out and the considerations that are made, but we ask that you work directly with your appointing authority and your supervisor to indicate those times that you want those funds paid out. And if you're not getting the response or the resources, again, we encourage you to reach out to our office as well.
Thank you. 4 10-hour shifts are offered through the department and have been proven to be successful. Our facility encouraged and allowed them consistently for approximately 2 years, where they were successful as well. We found our work orders were cut back and call-offs were much improved. The 410s were taken away temporarily with the reasoning of helping security. However, physical plant was allowed to help security then, but are not allowed now. Therefore, we have requested to return to 410s and subsequently have been told by the warden will not allow it. Staff are aware that the other facility staffing plans do allow physical plant to participate in 410s. Will the executive team ensure that the same opportunity is afforded to all physical plant staff across the board so that we can return to these shifts that were so effective, appreciated, and work-life balance friendly?
Again, unfortunately, this sounds like a very specific situation or facility. And while we support family or FSWs and we encourage flexible work schedules, we also know that each physical plant has its different needs and its uniquenesses. And so we rely heavily on the appointing authority to ensure that those considerations are being given. But if you believe or feel that that is something that we need to move back to because it worked for that specific unit, please again reach out to your appointing authorities. And if you need additional conversations or some additional information, we are always available as well.
Let's go back to training for just a few minutes. Why has most, if not all, department refresher training moved to online training? Here's an example. The use of force training used to be a 4-hour refresher training, and it's now only 16 minutes of online training. This training seems to me is quite important and should be longer, with more interaction with staff to ensure that we're meeting the department goals for staff and offenders. It's difficult for our staff to sit behind a computer and dedicate time to their training when they also have to monitor the units and deal with issues. Are we looking at in-person training in the future?
So I have a very long response from the Training Academy, so forgive me if it looks like I'm reading a few. I am going to say yes, we are looking at all training to determine what is the most effective way for training to be conducted. And as you all are aware, hopefully, or as you will be aware, we implemented a new training style yesterday that will allow for more time, more staff mentoring, more hands-on approach for training components of it. But we also know that the availability of staff, as well as efficiency and needs for some training components, they can be delivered in a virtual format as effectively as can other in-person formats that do take a lot of time and often aren't as flexible with staff schedules. So yes, there is a review, in short, of all training. But also be aware that there are resources with in-person training, and not all in-person training is as effective as some virtual trainings can be, especially when we're trying to meet everybody's specific schedules.
Has there been any discussions of a policy for bringing in personal cell phones? With the amount of 16-hour shifts we have to work, it would be good to have this tool in order to communicate with family without having to do all of the work of getting relieved or bothering master control. Many states and jurisdictions have applied this, and the feedback has been positive. I know there was some pushback at one time, but it was mostly by staff who didn't want to take change kindly. I feel this would improve morale and also recruiting efforts with the new generation.
Thank you for this question. And as you brought up in this question, we did look at this. I don't know, it's probably been around a year and a half ago. And I would say the feedback that we got was from large groups of the teams within the department that did not support the implementation and utilization of staff cell phones within facilities. And it was not just a few. There were large numbers of individuals that gave input, and I would say probably a good majority. Those individuals were very much against that and provided great security concerns or descriptions of the security concerns, sorry about that they had. So while I understand that it might have been believed that it was just a few individuals, we had a large majority of the department that had made indications of their lack of support for this.
Has anyone looked into the new CTA schedule and the burden it is now putting on facility parole staff to train? It appears that basically CTA is not necessary, and it's now up to the facility parole staff to do all the training at each individual facility, which makes absolutely no sense.
So I'm going to take this one. I'm not sure if it's a parole specific or a facility specific question, but the training schedule that has been developed or is being implemented at this point in time was based on the training evaluation that is sent out to all staff, the feedback that we get from new staff as well as from staff within the facilities as they're working with new hires. All of that has been taken into consideration, as well as what other training institutions are doing throughout the nation. And it has really been highlighted that there is a definite need for more hands-on job-related training along with the classroom piece. And so we are doing what industry standard is recognized as being the most beneficial to our staff, but it's also based on the impact and the feedback that we are getting from staff, from all of you, and from those that have completed the training academy.
Has it ever been brought up, the subject of the case management having a hybrid schedule, working a few days a month from home? I think most case managers can agree that it easily takes 1 day a week of time to log in on all the contacts, assessments, and create referrals for parole and community corrections. It would be a positive incentive for this to be able to work from home, and we would also be free of some of the workplace distractions. And now that snow is about to start, we could catch up with work instead of just being snowed in for the day. Because of the nature of our duties, we can't be fully remote since we need offender contacts, but I think a weekly hybrid schedule would greatly help.
So this is a great question that I don't know has been directly talked about for just case managers. Overall, the appointing authorities review and approve flex work schedules within their purview, and every facility or area has a unique situation, and I would encourage you to reach out to your appointing authority and supervisors to just talk about what those options may be.
When is the department going to give the offenders the available clothing allowance, t-shirts in a variety of colors and undergarment options, boxers, underwear, etc., and open up canteen allowable purchases without the clients having to fill out the 700-14 form for self-identification? These forms are multidisciplinary in nature, and it takes a lot of time and coordination to stay within compliance. Many of the offenders who are self-identifying are not concerned with preference of pronouns or their gender identity, rather than the offender is allowed to have to go through laundry department and or canteen.
So policy has allowed, the policy is specifically written to help us maintain the safety and security of our facilities, the identification of our incarcerated population, and ensuring clothing compliance. We have made some adjustments to allow and expand things like our undergarments for specific populations, but we also have a multidisciplinary group of individuals that's part of the canteen committee that reviews policy, reviews the products that can be purchased and ordered. And if you have recommendations, we encourage that you make those recommendations to that, or while the policy is being reviewed for changes, and just greatly encourage you all to continue to provide input and feedback on that policy.
Thank you, Director Smith. Let's jump over to clinical services and talk to Director Lacey Mundy. Good afternoon.
Hey.
Hi. In the past, I've been asked and been denied a scale that assists in the weights of my patients that live in wheelchairs. I am asked to weigh my clients in the laundry, and it kills me. I find this to be a dignity issue. Am I alone in this thought? Is it too much to ask for scales that weigh humans in wheelchairs to be located in our clinics at DOC?
So this is a great question, and some of our clinics do have scales within the clinics, and some just don't have the space for that. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to follow up at the facility level to see which clinics do not have the scales in their clinic areas, and working to see where we could place them so there's not a dignity issue.
Thank you. Sometimes offenders are being released from the facility without their medication. Sometimes it's a psych medication or medication they need to survive. Why is this happening, and what is the plan for this to stop from happening?
So our goal is that no one leaves the facilities without the medications they need, but sometimes there is releases that take place a lot quicker than we anticipate. And when that happens, we are working with the community behavioral health case manager that's tracking that. They reach out to the HSA, and then the Division of Parole also assists in this. So we identify this quickly and we resolve it, even though it is pretty administratively intensive. So our goal is that this would never happen, but sometimes things do happen. So if there's any solutions for how to make this better, I'm receptive to that feedback, but we are working together to try to make sure that doesn't happen.
Thank you. How come there's not a position that transfers to a licensed position similarly for psychologists? It may help if the HP2 or social worker 2 could be something for those who are in internships and practicums. This could keep staff in HP social worker 1 as seeking for outside for the needed hours and keep employment with DOC.
So to be honest, this question confused me a little bit. So I'm trying to navigate what the real question is. So the first piece I got of this is that individuals that are in certain classifications that are eligible for licensure do not have a place to go once they're eligible. And thankfully, the recent DPA changes say that if you have a licensed candidacy, then you can move into a licensed position after whenever you're ready to promote. We are looking through our positions right now to determine if there's a way to be more flexible in identifying positions that if you are ready to move into a licensed position and we don't have one of those vacant, if there's a way we can alter that. So we're trying to identify that. If this is more in reference to the psychologist candidate and getting internship hours to move into a fully licensed position, that's a little bit more complicated. We do have some meetings scheduled in the next couple of weeks to identify our internship process for FTEs and see if there's any kind of way to modify that. But right now there's a lot of restrictions when it comes to our internship programs. So hopefully we'll have some follow-up information on that in the next few months.
Thank you. The workload on medical staff has increased dramatically. Increasing inmate age, declining in inmate health conditions, and the exorbitant amount of time spent managing Suboxone are just a few reasons for the increased workload. Is there a plan to increase medical staff FTE? There just is not enough staff to complete all the tasks and give good patient care. What is the plan to ease this burden?
This is a wonderful question. And this is something that the clinical division has been working really hard on, especially over the past year, to identify how we can come up with solutions for this problem. We know it's a problem. We're actually working with FNA to see how we can utilize our positions differently. And we're also doing we're trying to find, we haven't identified it yet, a certification to use clinical staffing metrics for corrections. So there's staffing metrics for correctional officers, but we're still having a hard time finding something that's actually certified to make sure that our anecdotal data that we're receiving right now on staffing patterns can be validated through certification. So hopefully we'll be able to identify that in the next few months, utilize that to our advantage, and make sure that we are meeting the staffing metrics that we should be.
Thank you, Director. Let's jump over to parole. We have the Director of Adult Parole, Dave Wolfsgruber. How are you this afternoon?
Hey, good afternoon, Rebecca.
Hi. In 2014, facility parole officers were placed in facilities to handle HRH NDO, offender transports, to the offender's parole office. Since then, this position was replaced with what we now know as release case managers. Is there any reason we cannot get the release case managers armed transport or HNDO transports as necessary? This, like CTU, does not require post-certification.
So there are no policies precluding release case managers from requesting and obtaining armed transport certification. However, as it's not currently a required function of the position, and then it can't be added as a requirement within the classification to the incumbent, it's not feasible for those existing staff members. In addition, the role and responsibilities of the release case manager position with their significant caseload numbers are very different from those of prior facility parole officers, and simply wouldn't represent an efficient and effective utilization of the staff resource. However, we'll review areas of the state that may require additional assistance with high-risk, high-need transports, and if deemed necessary, we'll deploy existing staff resources to assist.
Thank you. In reviewing the new IA that was recently signed regarding the minimum staffing levels, the percentage of staff has been removed. We are not currently at the standard FTE staffing level. How are we to know what the minimum staffing is, and how would that affect staff who already have pre-approved leave?
So we've researched this extensively, and the Division of Adult Parole's implementation adjustment with respect to staffing plans, which is represented by AR 100-37, has never had percentages listed within the policy. The only unit within the division's operations that's truly a 24/7 coverage post is the command post. So minimum staffing defines posts, positions that must be occupied at a specific time to ensure the safety of employees, offenders, and the general public. And of course, they take into account averages and staffing vacancies, approved annual leave, call-offs, trainings, and so forth. The division will, of course, make every effort to honor the annual vacation roster and then leave that's been granted once it's been approved.
Thank you. We're going to jump over to the Inspector General's office, Mr. Danny Lake. Hi there.
Hi, Rebecca.
Hi. Here's a very in-depth, there's a lot to unpack in this question, so I'll try and get through it without messing it up. Here we go. My question is about the large amount of drugs present in facilities. Seems most every day, the majority of reports being read in roll call is on drug and drug paraphernalia being found throughout our facilities. I understand it's hard to believe that staff are doing this. However, I'm sure the overwhelming majority is brought in by staff. So my question is, why is there not better scanning of staff lunches and bags at main entry? The scanners used cannot detect, that I'm aware of, what could be hidden inside objects such as chip bags and water bottles. So why is it that lunch boxes and bags are no longer physically opened and checked by staff or supervisors? And why are there so few staff interdictions? It seems this should be an ongoing on all 3 shifts. Why also are dogs not brought out to search vehicles? Drugs are a very large and extremely unsafe issue, and one that very much concerns myself as a staff member.
Thank you. Great question. But before I start, unfortunately, this is a large question, so I'm gonna have to read some information to you. But before I start, I just want everybody to know that prison ops and the Office of the Inspector General work hand in hand daily, as well as the facility investigators and the appointing authorities. And we talk about these type things every day to come up with solutions. So we're doing that. In the future, if we could, having drug questions as it relates to the Office of the Inspector General, if you can tell us the facility, I can give you a better answer, because some facilities are different. So if we knew the facility, I can give you better information. But to answer your question, unfortunately, you are correct. There are drugs and drug paraphernalia found in prisons by staff daily because of demand by the offenders. The staff is doing a great job searching cells and offenders daily. However, offenders will try to introduce drugs through the mail, through visits, through visitors, or by a compromised staff member, or any other possible mean that they can come up with. We know that. The scanners and searching of lunch boxes and water bottles are not a daily function of the OIG investigators, but staff and security staff do the best job they can at main entry when the staffing they have on shift when arriving to work. They do the best they can with the staff they got. However, the OIG will conduct those types of searches that may apply during interdictions of visitors or staff. Please, if you suspect someone of compromising prison security measures, do not hesitate to reach out to your appointing authority or OIG investigators at your facility. Okay, now for some information, some stats. In 2023, OIG conducted 11 total interdictions, combined staff and visitors 2, staff 5, visitors 4. In 2024, currently, we have conducted 23 total, 5 facility, 15 staff, and 1 visitors. Okay. 2023, K9 total searches was 161, 38 facility assisted searches, 85 narcotic specific searches, staff interdiction search 16, visiting 7, and visitor interdictions 12. That's in 2023 by our K9 unit. 2024 K9 total searches currently to this date is 112. Facility assisted 5, narcotic search 88, public relations searches 2, staff interdictions 10, visiting search 5, visitor interdictions 2. These numbers will continue to increase to prevent or deter drugs from entering facilities. K9s, OIG K9s can search vehicles if needed, if requested, or if the intelligence dictates. We have only currently 3 K9s currently in the OIG. The passing of K9 Bain, which made the 4th, we currently have 3. However, funding dictates other additions to staffing in K9s. Please do not hesitate to call a tip line on the OIG page on the DocNet if you suspect anyone attempting to or has introduced drugs or contraband into facilities. I can guarantee you that the OIG will not ignore that information and will do due diligence to find out who is doing it and will enforce the laws associated with the crime. but it takes more than just the OIG to deter or prevent crime. So everybody has to play a part. So please do not hesitate. But I would really like to know the facility that you're talking about. So that way, if we need more canines there, we will get more canines. If we need more interdictions, we will be doing more interdictions. So please do not hesitate to reach out to us or to me directly via phone, email, not a problem, or go to your facility investigators. We will not hold that against you. We need and want your support. Thank you.
Thank you. I think you addressed every piece of that question. So that was a long one. Thank you so much for that answer. Let's jump over to the Director of Finance and Administration, Ashley Clark. Good afternoon.
Hey, Rebecca.
Hi. This question says, here at BV, we have one soda machine for staff that has never been filled or operational since I have worked here. Nobody seems to know who to fill it or who to contact to have them filled again. When I first started in late 2014, we had a vending machine for snacks, but shortly thereafter it went away. Is there any contact information that can be shared so that we could possibly get those up and running once again?
So thank you to whoever submitted this question. This is something that I wouldn't have seen unless someone had submitted a question. So typically these contracts are run through run through the staff councils in the area. So in this case in BV, and we have a statewide award that it goes into. That said, it looks like there's been some turnover at BV, which is why this one's been dropped. And we're looking into see this and seeing if there's a better process forward on this contract so it doesn't have to go through the staff councils.
Great answer. I think that's one of the reasons why we have this kind of stuff to light. So thank you for your answer. Let's jump over to Human Resources. We have Chief Human Resources Officer, Michelle Cottingham. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
We have a lot of questions to get to, so let's jump into some of your questions. Recently on the news, reported a staff member that had won a lawsuit concerning overpayment of their wages. With that said, is the DPA considering issuing a statement or letter to newly promoted staff as to what those wages will be to avoid future lawsuits?
So on this one, the case remains under litigation, so I'm unable to discuss it. But regardless of the findings, newly promoted staff wages would not be impacted.
Colorado law requires employees to be paid for every minute worked. Why then are non-exempt employees paid at 15-minute increments instead of hours and minutes worked? Rounding up or down is not fiscally responsible. Data integrity is paramount, especially when the public's money is involved. I have seen many people many times waiting for the 8-minute mark after a 15-minute threshold to clock out, which is a waste of money. Conversely, employees may clock out prior to 8 minutes, past the threshold, and not be paid for that time.
This is a really good question. So the process that is being described aligns with the rounding process or rounding practice that is authorized under the Fair Labor Standards Act. We refer to as FLSA. And if staff are aware of situations where employees are deliberately clocking out past their shift for personal gain, they should be reporting that to their supervisor.
This is a similar question, but here we go. Some areas, facilities are requiring time worked to be the actual time on post. But Colorado wage law states that any time waiting to do security screenings, receive post assignments, or issue equipment is to be compensable time. This accounts for approximately 15 to 20 minutes a day, depending on what is happening. Yet staff are being told they must be on post at their regular scheduled time. At the time to get equipment, to go through screenings, etc., are not to be paid. In particular, for staff do not get their roll call time in, the time in that security posts do. How can DOC get away with violating Colorado wage laws so egregiously by not paying out this time to case managers, teachers, food service, medical, and other posts? Shouldn't the time to do these items be accounted for in the scheduling and or arrival release from certain posts?
So we had a similar question posed in July, and that resulted in our public information officer distributing guidance on the subject. Generally speaking, the compensable work day begins when an employee engages in an activity that is considered an integral and indispensable part of the first principal activity of an employee's job. The compensable workday ends when an employee ceases such principal activities. An activity is integral and indispensable to the principal activities of an employee's job if it is an intrinsic element of these activities and one which the employee cannot dispense if they are able to perform their principal activities. Sorry, lots of words, but this is really the statute and the guidelines that address compensable time. In other words, the integral and indispensable test is tied to the productive work that the employee is employed to perform. For example, attending roll call or logging into a computer may be activities that are integral and indispensable part of the first principal activity of the job. Employees are expected to be at their assigned workstation, post, and ready to perform their principal duties at the start of their shift.
Thank you. Why is it with CDOC, it's always about timing when it reflects on staff promotions and salaries? It seems like staff have to be in the right place at the right time to reap any of these benefits. How is this fair?
I understand where the employees coming from, but understand that job postings, promotions, salary increases, policy updates, and many other things have an effective date. For example, across the board pay increases are always effective on July 1st if they're funded. And that effective date means anything going forward and precludes us from going backwards. So we have to stick with those effective dates.
When I started with the department, and still today, new hires are told that promoting or transferring is easy as positions become available. But why then is it actually extremely difficult? And then no one is actually told why we weren't selected, just a generic letter saying, at this time you were not selected. Will it be explained better to the new hires that it is not actually as easy as we were told in the past?
So all staff, including new hires, are encouraged to apply for open competitive job announcements, and there are many opportunities to promote within our agency. There were 753 employee promotions this last year, and we have exceeded 300 since January of this calendar year. So bear in mind that a number of applicants and the experience of the candidates can make some promotional opportunities more competitive than others.
If we earn 6.66 hours of sick time hours in a month, and it is granted for everything under AR 100-37F2, why are we receiving a verbal or written reprimand if we use this time that we have earned?
This seems to be a very specific situation, and so I would suggest reaching out to benefits or myself directly. But per AR 1100-37, sick leave is paid leave used for DOC employees' own medical exams and treatment, physical inability to work due to pregnancy, illness, or injury. In addition, family sick leave is also available. So I would recommend referencing that AR for the details of sick leave, and again, for the specific situation as far as a verbal or written reprimand, you can contact doc_benefits@statecolorado.us.
Why are temps paid differently when the department policy emphasizes equal pay?
The reason for bringing in a temp can be for a couple of reasons. It can be for a special project or maybe a short-term assignment to assist a specific division. With that being said, to draw in applicants for that time-limited appointment, we look at competitive pay for temporary staff based on the type of work that they'll be assigned. It's important to note that temporary positions that perform duties similar to full-time COs, such as hospital watch, are paid at an equal rate.
Why are the new hire bonuses so much higher than that of employees who have been here?
The department is working hard to fill vacancies, so that is less taxing on our workforce, our current employees. And the best way to fill these vacancies is by offering monetary incentives.
Oh, sorry about that.
Can I also just add to that one? I think what this person is also referencing is the large incentive bonuses for clinical staff that are currently going out. And we worked hard with our counterparts at the governor's office and the legislature on those amounts. And ultimately it was the legislature that told us, who funded us for a very high level for those amounts, for those specific positions as well. So it's not something we have entire discretion over.
Thank you for that clarification. Thank you. Why did new hires get bonuses within 30 days of being hired? But for the retention bonuses, we as employees who have been here have to wait 6 months to get ours. In this current economy, we all need money just to keep up with bills and feeding our family.
The current clinical services incentive pay is staggered into 4 payments, being at completion of basic training, and then the last one at 12 months. A separate incentive is the retention incentive, and the dates for that incentive, the retention incentive is available in November. So kind of 2 different buckets of money.
Concerning employee benefits related to healthcare, it's understood that life-changing events, which include the birth of a newborn, allow for the modification to be made to add newborns to our healthcare plans. Why are we being denied the ability to add newborns to our healthcare plans when the birth happens during open enrollment? This appropriate documentation and appeals were submitted, yet continue to be denied, and now I'm responsible for tens of thousands of dollars in hospital bills to pay.
This again sounds like a very specific question, and I would suggest reaching out to our benefits team. But it sounds like there's a combination of 2 separate issues. There's the addition of a child under what we call a QLE, a qualifying life event, and then the ability to add a child during open enrollment. The child added through a qualifying life event is eligible for benefits starting from the birth date, provided all paperwork is submitted according to strict IRS guidelines. And specifically, they have 31 days from date of birth to provide, to enroll, and 45 days to provide the documentation. The failure to meet those deadlines means the birth no longer qualifies as a QLE, and then the child can only be added during open enrollment, and that benefit period starts July 1st. If the child is added via open enrollment versus QLE, the IRS does not allow us to backdate the date of birth. Any requests to do so are denied by state benefits. So again, I would encourage you, if you've met those conditions and are still on the hook for hospital bills, is to contact our benefits team and see if they can help you navigate that.
Can we use LinkedIn to help find qualified candidates for maintenance positions?
Yeah, thank you. That's a great idea, and we will definitely look into this.
And on that note, I'll switch back over to Director Clark. We have an update on those vending machines.
Yes, and I just wanted to give a shout out as well to Bailey DeBuano. I hope I pronounced your name correctly. I'm sorry if I did not, over at BV. She wanted to tell me that you already have 4 vending machines coming and that you've been working hard on it. So thank you, Bailey, over at BV, for giving me that update. And I wanted to share it all with you as well.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. We do have so many more questions to get to. We will put them on for next month's live chat. I'll give our executive director final thoughts. Mr. Stansel?
Wow, flew. So I really enjoy doing these because there's, even in this one today, there's probably 3 topics that I'm already G-chatting the team about. One of them was about the cell phone thing. We're not going to look at bringing cell phones in the institution. I'm adamantly against that. I'm open and willing to hear anyone's justification for allowing it, but right now I'm adamantly against it. But some of the things we're looking at is, you know, trying to open up more outside lines and things like that. The question about the LinkedIn for maintenance, and there was a couple other questions that came up. That's the purpose for this. It is so we can hear things and get questions that we wouldn't ordinarily hear or ordinarily see. So I encourage everyone to please continue to feed your questions in. If like Rebecca always says, if it doesn't get answered in this meeting, we'll make sure we get it answered either in the next meeting, or if you've identified yourself, we'll get you an answer in between meetings. So I'm just going to kind of end there because we're like 4 minutes away. But I just want to thank everybody for participating. We get numbers of the participation in these events, and I'm happy to say that it's steadily growing, which is great because we're doing this for all staff. We're doing this for everyone to get information. We're also doing this to try to cut back on some of the, you know, the misinformation that's out there. So that's why we record it, so you can go back and listen and hear it. So thank you again for everybody participating. I hope you all are having a safe day and a safe week. And until we meet again, you all be safe.
Thank you. October 8th will be at 11 o'clock. So thank you to the executive team and all of you out there watching. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.